Hi, my name's Amanda. I grew up Roman Catholic, so I was in church every Sunday. I was super involved. I did, the choirs. I was a Sunday school teacher. I did the readings. I was an altar server. I loved church at the time. And then my gram got sick. She was diagnosed with lung cancer. It was 75% of her left lung. At the time, she was 73. She's a tough cookie, so she fought it for 4 years. And during that 4-year period, every week when I was in church, I was praying that God would heal her. He would take her pain away, because my grandma was my best friend. Ultimately, that wasn't what happened. We did lose her. And at that point, I kind of drifted from God. I was very mad. I was upset. And in losing my faith, I lost myself for a while. After that, I found a guy who had promised me the world, and I fell right into the trap. The marriage that I wound up in was extremely emotionally volatile. It wasn't a good situation. We did not work out well, and that was sort of my wake-up call. I gave it a little bit longer, hoping maybe things would work themselves out, and they didn't. And once that was done, I started to come back to Restored more, and definitely found myself stronger in my faith than I have ever been. And on top of that, I had a new family at Restored who could lift me up in times when I would start to doubt again. Because despite, being strong in my faith, there are still times where I struggle. Within the last year, the first thing that happened was my daughter Mackenzie. She has a neurological condition that she got from my mother and I called Neurofibromatosis. And what that does is it causes tumors to grow along your nerves. Very scary situation. But by the grace of God, we have been able to drop her appointments from every 3 months down to instead every 6 months, which is fantastic because there have been no changes where, there was the risk of it growing and taking away her vision or things like that. But, as life goes, I had a situation happen where I was dizzy for a while, a couple of months, and I thought it was attributed to the previous situations that I've been going through, so I didn't think anything of it. But then one day I was sitting in work and I lost my peripheral vision. So that obviously caused me to panic a little bit, and I went to the hospital where they admitted me for 3 days and told me I was diagnosed with a disease called Moyamoya disease. What that is the vessels in my brain constrict smaller than what your average person has, which leads to elevated stroke risks. And I sent it to a doctor in California who gave me a 2-week notice to get out there and have a brain bypass done. I can't lie and say that I wasn't scared out of my mind. Leaving for that surgery was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because my daughter stayed behind with my dad. And when I said goodbye to her, I didn't know if it would be the last time I'd ever get to see her. I sat out on the balcony and prayed and read through some Bible verses that Joy had recommended to me. She's a member here. For those of you who don't know her, she's fantastic. And one of the ones that stuck out most to me was one from Psalm. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And after I read that, I just felt an overwhelming amount of peace. And from then on, I kind of faced the surgery head on, knowing that no matter what happened, it was God's will and it was God's plan. It was my faith, it was God. When I would struggle and people would ask how I was keeping it together, I'd say because God's the one handling it, not me. So, there was that struggle at first, but then you put it in His hands and let it be what it'll be. And here I am today, recovered from the surgery, back to work, and more involved in Restored than I was before. For the people who are currently suffering, the most I can say is, as hard as it is, hand it to God and let Him take control. Because you give Him control and know that His will is going to be His will no matter what, it helps take a lot of the pressure off of you.